Creating an Angular application. In this video, we're going to create our first Angular application. Before you do that, we need to install the Angular CLI, create the project, and then run the application. And here is a list of the CLI commands you need to use. So let's go and get started. Alright, so here in the IDE, we're going to focus on the front end now. So open the terminal in the front end. Make sure you're in the front end folder. And just make sure you don't have Angular installed already. You can check it by typing the word or the letter NG followed by the word version, and you see that I don't have the term NG recognized yet. That means I don't have it installed. If that doesn't work, you can also try the NG -- version, and if you get what I get, then you don't have it installed. Okay, so I'm going to do a fresh install of the CLI. So to do that, just quite simple. Put some spaces in here. You just type the word npm install the -g for global. You want to install that globally, so you'll be able to access the ng. This is the CLI command for Angular. Followed by the @ symbol and the name Angular /CLI. And that will install the latest version of the Angular CLI in the global space so that you can access this globally in your machine. And that might take a little while to install, but we'll see. Maybe like a minute or two. Okay, so that's done, and it tells you that it has Angular 9.1.9. Okay, we can make sure that's true. Now you should be able to access the ng command. So if you type ng space version, and if it's all correct, you should be able to see the version. If you scroll a little bit, you see the Angular CLI here. Version is 9.1.9 and so on. So that's good to go. Okay, now let's go ahead and create our Angular application. So again, make sure you're inside the front end folder. And from here on, let's clear my screen and issue the command ng. We use the Angular CLI now to create a new project, followed by the keyword new, space, and then the name of your application. So I'm going to use the name for our app. That's the one we call mean-stack-agency. Okay, you see that I'm using all lowercase and using dashes. And so don't put white spaces in here, like that it won't work. And you can use underscore if you want to, but it's very common to use dashes in all lowercase for your projects. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit enter. And ask you if you want to use the routing. Yeah, just go for that so you don't have to create this manually. It will add it automatically for you. Just say yes. It's going to ask you what style sheet format you need to use. For this course, I'm just going to use the default, which is the CSS. And then just wait and let it install. Now, this could take a while. It may take up to at least 5 minutes, maybe, depending on the speed of your internet connection, also in your computer system. And it's a huge framework, as you can see, because it's a full-fledged framework. So it takes a long time to install. If you're using like React, that's a different story. But Angular, because all these different components, it's a full-fledged module component framework, so it has a lot to install. So we just let it run until it's done. And again, it might take up to like at least 3 to 5 minutes, or maybe a little bit more, depends. Okay, this is now completed. I had to pause the video because it taking too long. But if you get this message here, if you scroll up a little bit, if you get all these error messages, this has to do with GitHub and your Git repository. So for some reason, I probably did not set my GitHub locally correctly. It just says some messages here about GitHub stuff. So don't worry about it. It's not going to affect your program. Here, if you want to set to run your Git account, you can do that. I'm not going to do that, but just ignore my thing there. But so far, everything looks good. And then we can go ahead and test that as well. But notice also the IDE, because when you install Angular, it automatically creates this Git account or Git repository. And if you go into the directory here, let me see here. If I go into the mean stack, okay, you see there's a git ignore. It is an invisible file called .git in there. So you want to, you can keep that if you want to. and you can keep committing those changes to your Git account. But I'm not going to do that for this because it takes a lot of time just to do that. So you can see all these changes means that like 31 files has been changed, and I should push that to the repositories. But I want to turn that off by removing my Git account file. So here it's an invisible file, but you can just easily remove that by going to the command here. Just type rm for remove, and I'm using the dash, then the word force, and then the .git. I think that's for Windows. If you're on a Mac, I think just like dash R would be fine for, and then the name git.t. Okay, you can try that. But for Windows is rm space dash force and then .git. And that should remove it. Ask you to remove it, just say yes, just hit enter, and that will remove your Git repository, so you don't have to deal with that. And now it's all good. Okay, so I think we're done for this part. Now let's go ahead and run the program. Well, before we run, I'll take a look really quick. You see all these files here are added for us automatically, and then there is a the package.json here. This is used to manage your Angular application. Is the name of our application. All these there are the different dependencies that we needed, and these are the dependencies for development. You need these here when you run production, or you actually export it to this production site. Then you will remove some of these and add it to the dependencies here, like the TypeScript and so on. But in here you have another file called angular.json. We'll look at this later, but for now you see this is another metadata for the Angular application. So when you build this application here, it's going to go into the build section here, and it has some really important information here. The index tells you that the main entry point to your application, the main page, is just src index.html, and that the main is the main entry point to your program. So we'll talk about this much later in the course, but for now I'm just going to show you that this is a really important file. You don't want to miss that, don't want to delete that, leave it there. Okay, and so let's go ahead and run this file. To run it, just go back to the terminal, Ctrl J is a shortcut, and then in here just type in the word ng space serve. If you just leave it like that, it's going to run it, but if you type the space -o or open, then that is going to compile it and then also open the browser right away to load the application, assuming if there's nothing wrong with the code. So we have not changed anything, so it should work as we would expect. So we'll see how long it's going to take, but it shouldn't be too long. Okay, doing something. Okay, you notice it's compiling. The reason why is because, again, Angular uses TypeScript. So in order for the browser to understand, it needs to compile everything from TypeScript, convert that to JavaScript. So the processing time here can take a little bit longer than usual. Okay, so my browser did open in a separate window. Let me bring it over here. You can see, and so here we are, and this is the application running right now at port number 4200. That's a default port for Angular. So if you see this, you're good to go. We have created our first Angular application, so congratulations. Next, we'll take a look at the Angular project file structure.